Welcome, OD professionals and HR leaders. Robert F. Benson here. Today we're talking about one of the three keys of leadership. Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to speak at the Tulsa Executive Luncheon's Leadership Series on the three keys of leadership. The first two, we've already produced videos around and you've seen them. So everyone with me here, the first key to leadership is having a generous view of others. And by that, we've spoken of this before in terms of your people want to do good work. And beginning from that understanding, that knowledge, that assurance in your head that your people really do want to. They're motivated to do good work, which then leads you to the second key, is that you as a leader need to create the performance environment. And you've heard us speak before about the 6 boxes: information, resources, incentives, knowledge and skill, fit, motivation. And those were popularized by Tom Gilbert. And that some version of that, that's what people need in every work situation in order to bring their best. And it's what I, as a leader, ensure that they have. So key number 1, I bring a generous view. Key number 2, I set up a performance environment for them to do their best work. Key number 3 is where we're going today in this video, and it's around self-awareness. You're the most important person in your business. You're certainly the most important person to the people who report to you. Therefore, if your business is going to offer increasing value, it's because you offer increasing value as a leader. Let's look at some of the ways that we might make that happen. So if we ask the question, who here is self-aware? How many of you would raise your hand? Well, that's, it's kind of a joke, a trick question, of course, because we're only as aware as we are of whatever we're aware of. But self-awareness is the thing that everybody thinks that they themselves are quite strong in, but they wish everybody else knew a little bit more of. The Harvard Business Review recently published a summary of the research around self-awareness. Only 15%, if self-awareness is defined as being both aware of my internal states and how I am in a given moment, also how aware I am of my impact on others and how I'm acting and so forth. So there's an internal component and an external component. If we measure both of those, that in fact only 15% of thousands of leaders surveyed could be defined as truly self-aware. And that the higher they were in rank and the longer they'd served, the more likely they were to overestimate their effectiveness. So self-awareness, highly important, and in some ways in very short supply. So how do we as leaders increase our self-awareness? Well, we do that in a few different ways. It begins with courage. It's not easy for anybody to truly look and open themselves up to others who know their work and to invite them to tell them where they're strong and where they're weak. There is some need for personal reflection, the willingness to take in what people say and to think it through, but reflection by itself is not enough. We can't ever truly get around our own bias. We'll tend to disregard information that doesn't correlate with how we see ourselves, and we'll tend to overestimate the importance of other pieces of data which are truly insignificant. So we need to get information in from outside of ourselves. We need feedback from others. In business, the way to do that is to use a 360 tool. I'm going to introduce 2 of these for you. The Center for Creative Leadership publishes their benchmark series. This is the benchmark for managers. It is the most, it is the tool that is used the most throughout the world in terms of number of people who've actually taken it and continue to take it. So it's used and published in several languages. Used throughout the world, it measures 16 different competencies, broken in three categories. Category 1 is how I lead myself. Category 2 is how I lead my team. Category 3 is how I lead the business or the organization. So I'm measured on all 16 of those, and the data is broken down between how all raters rate me versus myself versus my boss. Basically, each of the groups are segmented out, so you get an in-depth feedback report. Some of the information comes back to you in ways that are graphical. So we can see in this spread right here that my superior rated me significantly higher than others on my team. And that's good information to have. It's to know that your peers rated you the same or lower than others. So it gives you opportunity to sit and think how you act in ways that are different based upon your peer groups or the different rater groups it assigns you. Each one of the competencies is itself broken down into the individual elements that people responded to. And again, what's that spread look like? So you get a very detailed report with the Center for Creative Leadership's benchmark for managers 360 assessment. Another option is Wiley, the publisher of Everything Disc, that suite. They have something called their Everything Disc 363. This is best for those organizations and individuals that already know and like the DISC instrument. Rather than 16 different competencies, the Everything Disc 363 measures you against 8 different approaches to leadership that are closely tied to your DISC style. So those approaches are, you can see around the circle, commanding, pioneering, energizing, affirming, and so forth. The bubble shows, on the inside, shows how closely or how frequently you use one approach relative to the others. And the 363 invites others to rank you in the same way, but then also to say what works for them, whether they want more or less of a particular approach. So it's very tuned into what your people want to see and don't want to see from you. Comment Smart is the feedback, is the tool within the Everything Disc 363 that structures the feedback you get from people. The comments aren't free-form comments. The comments are, I want to see more of this, I want to see less of this, I believe this individual does the correct amount of this. So it makes it somewhat tamer without losing the ability to prompt you in the right direction. It finishes, the Everything Disc 363 finishes with 3 areas on which to focus. It also breaks down your information based upon the different folks who rated you, so you have that comparison. And it goes down into the individual level of the items that were actually rated. And again, how your people rated you relative to one to another. Both of these tools are superior 360 tools, and neither one of them is sufficient by itself. That is, you don't, proper use doesn't say, here, take this and give it to other people and now just go sit in a room and absorb it. That can wind up injuring the person more than helping them. So it's important to set everyone up, if you're going to do a 360 process, or to set up the person being rated and all of the raters with the purpose of this, that this is for leadership development. This doesn't have anything to do, if you're doing it right, you're not going to tie it to promotion. You're not going to tie it to any other personnel action. This is all about helping someone grow. So when you do that, when you coach people, here are the kinds of comments, the type of language that's helpful. Then you get feedback that is truly useful. Encourage you also need a coach to help that person sit down and go through the data. distinguish that which is really consistent and important versus that which is outlier information or not particularly useful at this particular time. Those are two tools. I'll give you one more that's an optional one based upon the speech that I gave yesterday. Let's say you don't want to do a 360 tool right now. Do this. Go to your people and ask them to write down on a sheet of paper one thing they like about how you lead and one thing that they don't. And then set up a process where they can submit this anonymously. And again, it's not as valid or reliable. You're not comparing yourself against known models of what constitutes strong leadership. But you still can get very good data about practices that you can amp up, continue doing, and change to make yourself a more effective leader. So self-awareness is key. It's crucial to your own development as a leader and to the increasing effectiveness of your team. So find ways to do that, whether that's the example that I provided at the end of the video, where you simply ask, give me one thing I can improve, give me one thing that I do well, and use that for your reflection. Whether you do that or you use a 360 tool, step into it, embrace, find ways to get feedback. If you need assistance, I'd be happy and honored to talk with you how I might serve as a coach. I can certainly access either one of those tools and help you get set up and started. Thanks so much for watching today.